Hello everybody. So today we're looking at setting up some code for Flask server to display the scraped data that I got with Scrapy. I was scraping a recruitment site, and I'm doing that on an ongoing basis. So I've got Scrapy running as a cron job. It's retrieving data from a recruitment site and it's storing it in a Postgresql database, and it's all running on a Raspberry Pi using Linux. So if you're using Linux, then this is potentially more, this is closer to what you would do. If you're using Windows, then all of the same should work, but maybe slightly differently with a few little different tweaks here and there. Obviously you wouldn't use cron, you'd use is it Windows Task Scheduler or something. So yeah, you can see from my rough diagram, I'm going to be connecting from a PC to the Pi, and the Pi is going to be running Flask, and I'm just going to be creating a page called /jobs, which will display all of the jobs which have been scraped to the PostgreSQL using Scrapy. So if you'd like to see that, I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing it in real time. So I'm not going to edit out all the mistakes or the typos, and yeah, I'm not going to be adding subtitles, or very few either, because it just takes so long. And really, I want to spend more time actually showing you the code, and I hope that's okay. If you like the older style videos where I put subtitles everywhere, then please say, and I can maybe go back and do that. But for the time being, I just want to concentrate on the code. So what we're doing really is we're linking up Scrapy, PostgresQL. So for Scrapy, you could, for each of these tools, let's call them tools, you could use Beautiful Soup instead of Scrapy. You could use MySQL instead of PostgreSQL. You could use, I don't know, there's various other sites, macro sites out there other than Flask. I mean, Django, but that's probably a bit of a taking a sledgehammer to crack a nut here, to be honest. So really, I thought how to describe this is, I've not used this jargon myself, but Mike Victor Papa, MVP, is something I see used quite frequently these days. So this is actually an MVP, minimum viable product, of Flask displaying scraped data which has been stored in PostgreSQL. Yeah, obviously you could just log into your PostgreSQL server and look at your scraped data. Yeah, if that was the only reason, then I would leave it at that, but there's always a reason behind everything here, and also the reason here is that I want to ultimately use Flask to display some kind of my adventures in machine learning, so NLTK and yeah, NLP, natural language processing. So I'll be attempting to, I don't know whether I'll be using a bag of words, probably not. From what I've read about bag of words, that it gets very big and overblown if you have lots and lots of words, and really I think that's probably yet to find out, but it might be too much for the Raspberry Pi. Anyway, that's down the line. So what I want to just show you now is if I can regain control of my mouse, which is, there we go, do F11. Get that screen flicker with, that's about the only minor complaint with Linux Mint when I'm using OBS, is occasionally I see a flicker at the top of the screen. Anyway, yeah, Flask SQL on GitHub. So if you want to look at it, copy the project, or just be nosy and see what I've done, then it's all here on RGGH as usual, Flask_SQL. So if we actually go and look at what I've put on here so far, pretty much what I've just explained, so I won't go over that again. README, obviously, app. So if you know anything about Flask, then app.py is typically the kind of the entry point for your Flask web server. Base HTML, that's not actually used. Again, minimum viable product, so could use that. In fact, I'll show you it. In the end, decided not to use it because really minimum viable product means minimum. So app.py, jobs.html, I'll show you that and then I'll come back to that and explain it when we actually use it. So all I'll say for now is that's Jinja, Jinja, and if any of you ever saw what was actually my most successful video, believe it or not, which I'm still miffed about, my Python Word docx, or dynamically create Word docx files using Python, that used Jinja as well. So yeah, Jinja is not specific to, it's not specific to Flask. So the other thing, before we go back and look at app.py and concentrate on that, I'll just show you db.py. And if you've been watching any of my web scraping to a database videos, good on you. And if you haven't, then shame on you. What I'm using here is PsychoPG2, which is basically the same as MySQL connector. I've just made a very, very minimalist function called getAllJobs. Or no, it's called jobs because in English jobs equals recruitment. So I could have called it get all recruitment, but jobs is shorter. When I say jobs, so don't mix up jobs with cron jobs, because a cron job is a task really. In English it's called semantics. It's kind of being pedantic, but it's a difference between it's how words, it's the meaning of words, not the meaning of life. So if you'd like to see this, yeah, sorry I've been rabbiting on. Let's so create a connection, a host. So I will be running this on my Raspberry Pi. So because I've written this on another machine, I've left in the 192.168 address of the Pi, and if you put this onto the Pi, it still works. So the only problem is if you had multiple, for instance, if you had lots of VMs and it was moving in between different virtual IPs, then it could, or it would, fall over. But if you've got one server with one instance of Flask on, or one Postgresql database on, then you can leave it really. Yeah, if you've seen localhost, then stick with that if you're running it on the same machine. If you're running PostgreSQL on the same machine as you're running Flask, that is. Cur equals con.cursor, you secure a cursor object, and that's what you do, which executes your SQL. So that's an SQL statement, if you didn't already know that. Jobs equals cur.fetch all. So jobs equals fetch all from your cursor object, and then that jobs gets returned by this function. So then this function, just zoom in on this, I'm sorry, it's probably on the small side. So this function, get all jobs, get all recruitment listings. If I called it get all recruitment listings, it would probably use up half the page. So that is what gets returned within Flask. So because Flask uses Python, it understands Python functions, and the main app.py file will call this, and when it calls it, it gets back the jobs object, which is fetch all, which is get everything from the listings. Really what I should actually do is just say select description from listings, or select description, comma, posted. Because if you've seen my earlier video, I was calling the date when the listing was scraped, I was calling that posted. Right, so let's leave that and let's go and look at app.py. Once we've looked at these, the next part of this video will actually be transfer or getting this code onto the Pi and then see if we can get it working. So let's have a look at app.py, which for anybody wanting to learn Flask or see how I'm doing this, then I've left get and post in here. So from Flask, import Flask. So every Flask demo or tutorial you see will have that. Render template. Now you need render template because we want to do some HTML. If I'd only done this function, I wouldn't have needed render template. I could have just, if you just pass in some really basic text back to the screen, or if you're trying to create a REST API, then you don't need to use HTML. So import DB. For any of you who've seen many other Flask tutorials, obviously most of this will look familiar. App equals Flask dunder named under. So really this is because we're running it as the main file, which is calling any other files. So this is the entry point, shall we say. App.run, and then debug equals true, which if you've seen any other Flask tutorials, debug equals true is important because it means that when you make any changes, you can see what's going on in the terminal, and it should update itself as well without having to keep refreshing a page. And if the observant amongst you may have noticed that as well as jobs HTML, which will be the HTML page which Flask renders for us, jobs equal. So when we render the template, we're rendering an HTML a page of HTML. Within that HTML, if you remember, we'll be using the Jinja to insert jobs, or everything that the variable jobs contains, because that's what this get all jobs did in the other file I just showed you. Or it will get all the jobs, which is basically select star from listings, and then it puts it all into a variable, and then that variable goes into the location where we had the Jinja code. So ultimately we'll get a page called jobs.html, which will be displaying all of the jobs stored in the Postgresql database. If I remember, I'll put the card up here so that you can see the Postgresql database and where I set that up. And as I say, the whole point of this is partly just to tinker with Flask, but really there's a point to it, which is to set all this up in preparation for doing something clever with natural language processing. So this is kind of just another step towards that. So I'll have got Scrapy running, which gets me the data. I'll shortly, once we've done this, have the front end working, which displays the data. And then I've just got to go back and add in some code in the middle, which will then extract more meaning from the scraped text, shall we say. It's good. Right, so I think now we're ready to go across to the Pi and transfer this code onto the Pi, get it running, and then we'll just test it, and that will be nice. Good. So what we're going to do now is log onto the Pi, and then we're going to set up Flask, and then we're going to test can display from SQL. Now I'm writing SQL there because I'm using PostgreSQL, but it doesn't have to be. You could equally do something virtually the same with MySQL, or even TSQL, or whatever the Microsoft flavor is. Right, so SSH space Pi at Pi4. Now this is just the name of my Raspberry Pi, the username, and then the actual. What I could have done equally would be just the IP address. So 1.9. I've not logged on from this machine before, so say yes. Okay, so Now it's asking me for the password, which is the password which I put onto it, hopefully. Ah, I think this is, yeah, this reminds me why I actually use app.py. So depending on how you sort of do with DNS, and if you've got your home router acting as a DNS server or whatever, then you can get issues with the PI taking ages to respond with login requests. So there we go. Yeah, a little tip there. So if you try and access your Pi just through the IP address using the 192.168, you may get a very, very long delay if you're logging in from a Linux machine. So yeah, better to use the username, then the @ symbol, and then the host name. Just a little tip from trying and failing. Not failing, but it just freezes and seems to take forever. So what are we doing? We're going to go to I'll just, for those of you who haven't seen before, we'll just do sudo -i -u for user, and we're going to switch to Postgresql user. And what's going on here? Oh yeah, your username is Postgres. There we go. And PSQL, that just sets up the entry for Postgres. And if we do /c to connect, we'll connect to jobs, which is the database I created. And then I'll just do select from listings. And there we go. So what I've just done is the command line login, and what we'll be doing shortly is actually seeing this in an HTML page. So yeah, all's good in the world. So what we need to do is we need to exit /u to quit jobs, exit to exit Postgresql. Now I think so I'm still running. I'm running cron jobs, so if we do cron e, I'll just show you. Oh yeah, it was cron tab. See, sorry, not concentrating. And there you can see, if you saw my other video about running cron jobs, there you see it's still running every day at 3 p.m. And yeah, let's just see what directories I've got on here. Scrapers. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to create a new directory for this Flask installation. So in actual fact, I'm going to clone it from GitHub anyway. So yeah, let's clone the directory from GitHub, and then I'll install Flask in the same directory. So have I got Git installed? I have. Git clone. And then if I go, I should remember all this, I do it often enough, but you know what it's like, there's reasons. It's easy to copy and paste, avoid typos. So copy and paste that link. If anybody have not done that before, sorry, I did that a bit fast. What you do is when you go to the page, just click the green button, click, and this window comes up below, and you've got a little clipboard here. So that's the text you need. Click the clipboard, copied, and as long as you've typed git clone there, you can just go paste and press enter. Okay, we got it there. And cd Flask. Just type the first part of Flask because there's nothing similar there. And there we have app.py base. See those? So, yeah, I haven't got Flask installed, so pip install. In fact, I can't remember if I've set up an alias for this, so tell you what, I should just quickly show you. If you're not familiar with aliases, let's just do vim .bashrc. So you have to type this. This is going to run vim, and it's going to go to your home directory, and then you need / a dot and then bashrc. And there we go. So if we just page down a bit, this is quite a long bashrc, and there we go. Aliases. We're looking at aliases. I should have okay, Python. So if I quit this, and if I do I just want to find out what pip is doing, if it's safe. Let's just do which pip. So that's not, I don't think that's pip 3. It's just I just need to check really, because I know on some older machines, if you've not do pip 3 Linux. In fact, let's just do that anyway. So there we go. If you just we've got some aliases. So I've already set Python equal to Python 3.9, and then if I just do oh no, I can paste it in because it was all there, wasn't it? So pip will always run pip 3, because if you left it as pip, it potentially could install stuff from Linux on Python 2.9. Anyway, let's get on with it. And what was I going to do? Yeah, so now pip will do Flask. Pip install Flask. It's already on here after all that fuss. Sorry about that digression, but yeah, if you run pip, it may just install the packages for Python 2.7. So yeah, if you're on a default installation, just make sure that pip is going to install for Python 3 and not Python 2. Oh, we're already in Flask-SQL as well, so I think I'm just going to go for it and type Python app.py. And we've got a problem. No module named Flask. Well, we definitely have, because that's what I've just checked the installation of. Right, this is where I attempt to fix this no module named Flask, which is quite a common error actually when I've been experimenting. So, okay, despite all my chat, it looks like you still need to use Python 3, so not a problem. But yeah, Python 3 app.py, and then it's brought me up a message which I remember, which is about PsychoPG2, which is what allows Python to connect to Postgresql, and I just need to install that. And I found from bitter experience that you need to put PsychoPG2 -binary. And if you're thinking, why is oh I wonder if it's not available on the Pi. Let's just it might be different on the Raspberry Pi then. No, okay, bear with me while I fix that. It helps if you can spell. It's okay, looks like it's working. Yeah, psycho. I think is that a Greek word? PS, where you get a PS and a Y together? Don't know, but PSY, not PYS. Right, let's try and just clear the screen. And now we want to try Python 3 app.py. And it looks like we have a running web server. Oh dear, it says can't open. How odd. So we've got, let's just try it anyway. Open link, please. No. Okay. No such file or directory. No, let's try and fix that then. Okay, so a couple of quick tips. Use pip install -U Flask. If you do that, then Flask will run properly. And then you should get this message, which is good, which means your server is running. So running on HTTP 127.0. Right, so this is what I get when I make videos early in the morning. With lack of coffee, you sometimes go up the garden path, so to speak. So what I did was I actually I was tinkering with Nmap and scanning all the ports and thinking that port 5000 wasn't open, and that was a problem. It wasn't. So I managed to lock myself out of my Raspberry Pi, so then I had to go and plug in a keyboard and a monitor. So anyway, I won't bore you with all that. Instead, it's not a firewall issue. What I had to do was add a line into app.py, and also the observant amongst you will notice that my HTML files were in the same directory as the Python py, app.py, and db.py files. That's bad. They need to go inside a templates folder. So although I've got all 4 files on GitHub in the same place, the HTML files need to go inside a templates folder. Right, so let's just, I'll show you app.py and I'll show you what fixed it. So can you see this line here? So what you need to say is host equals quad 0, threaded equals true. I think that allows you to run more than one instance, and debug equals true. So really this is what fixes it. Host equals quad 0. If you can see that. It's actually better if I don't put my mouse over it. So yeah, let's run it then. So if I just do ls, you can see that I've now made templates folder, and the 2 files that were in the top directory now live in the templates folder. So back up. And what we need to do now is Python 3. So I still need to type Python 3, which is annoying. I think it's all to do with path, but I haven't got time to investigate that. And just typing letter 3 on the end is not too much of a chore right now. So .py. So I'm now getting this random 10 address, which I don't quite know why it's generating that, and trust me, we don't go to that address. I know that my Pi, so at the moment I'm logged on to the Pi, and I've just issued this command on the Pi. There we go, Pi at Pi 4. So now if I come back to my Linux box, and when I say my Linux box, I mean my PC running Linux Mint, which is, let's call it the client. And I'm just going to drag this over here for you, and just to show there's no skullduggery or smoke and mirrors going on, let's do a brand new incognito. 192.168.1.9 port 5000, and hello, that tells me it's working. And if I go /jobs, hooray, so we've got some success. Right, this is the whole point of this video, and it is to demonstrate that I am running, if you remember the PDF at the start, I'm running Flask on a Raspberry Pi, which is what we've been looking at for the past half an hour. So there we go, we've got Flask running on the Raspberry Pi, and I'm accessing it from, so that's a SSH shell session. So if you're on Windows, that would probably be putty. And let's just, if I make it always on top, then you can just see it update when I do anything. So if I just refresh this, you should see something change here. You should see another line. Yeah, because I've made another GET request. And yeah, this is the content that I've scraped over the past, I believe it's since the 5th of June. I'm using kind of the international date format, so it's the 5th of the 6th month 2021. Let's just make that a bit bigger for you. So there you go, 2021 June. And these, yeah, the other thing you think, you might notice that I've made it stripy. That's called zebra striping, and I've done that with the CSS. So I'll just quickly show you that as well. And then we'll wrap this up. And then the next time I'll actually do some stuff with NLTK, hopefully. So, oh yeah, I used Bootstrap as well. So, Vim jobs. Let me just make that a bit, make that full screen. So what have we got here? We've got the Jinja, which is for each of the jobs in the jobs list that we get back from the select statement in db.py. As per that comment. Yeah, so all I've done is I've included the standard Bootstrap 4.4 there, and all I've done is I've said this is for the zebra stripe, so every odd one I want that color, and every even one I want that color. So you don't have to do that, that's just me trying to make things look pretty. So really you just need to say block content and end block, and then you just need to say, you just need to do a Jinja style for loop with the curly braces and double curly braces to put your variable that you actually want to print to the screen. So every one of these paragraphs that you're seeing is actually this. See that? So, and then obviously the alternating colors are dealt with just there. So those two lines change the color, and this line is actually what's putting the text on the screen. So all I've actually achieved here is I've managed to get a Flask server running on a Raspberry Pi, and I can access it from another, well, from a client on the same LAN. So my Pi is 192.168.1.9, and just quit that. If I open a new tab, anyone? Yeah. IP address, and then you will see my Linux PC is 192.168.1.6, and yeah, I'm not really sure what this 10.35, I'll need to read up on that, but for the sake of this video we don't really care. So my firewall is on, it's blocking everything apart from well, well, it's blocking all incoming connections anyway, so I don't care. it's a stateful application firewall. So it's allowing connections out, but it's not allowing connections in, which is what you want. Good. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this makes sense. This really is me creating a development server on my Raspberry Pi, which displays scraped data that I've scraped with Scrapy, and it's just presenting it in a nice way, and it saves me logging into my Pi to look at the results. So for instance, if I'm sat downstairs on my armchair and I want to log in, I could just put this into my mobile phone or my Chromebook or whatever. And next we'll be looking at NLP. So until next time, thanks for watching.